how working with a matchmaker differs from your experience of doing online dating?
So I think for me, I was dating and I had gone the online route and it was great. I met a lot of really amazing women. But I think for me, I was sort of craving more of a connection. I was ready to do something just completely different. And so a lot of my friends were talking about you and your service and what it would be like to actually try to find true partnership. And I think there was a moment when I was talking to my sister and I was telling her about it, and she's like, you have to do it. What do you have to lose? I have nothing to lose. I'm gonna do this. I had to have a lot of self-talk. I had to kind of coach myself into it. There were moments where I was like, you're gonna pay for a date? This is crazy. But for me, I was really at a point in my life where I wanted to meet someone, clearly who I was choosing wasn't really working. And so I was really ready to kind of put it in somebody else's hands. It was much easier than I thought. I think sometimes we psych ourselves out, and I decided to just go with it. Once I made the decision for me, it was really easy. Working with you was really transparent. I felt like I always knew what I was getting into, and I had a lot of anxiety about the fact that you wouldn't let me see a picture of anybody. And that's how I had chosen pretty much all of my dates in the past. And clearly that hadn't worked for me. So I really had to have some self-talk and just kind of let go. You really just have to let go and kind of trust that somebody else who's looking at characteristics and interests and commonalities is going to take over. And so I think the biggest thing for me was really just letting go and trusting the process. And I have to say, even though there wasn't total chemistry with everybody that I met, there was great conversation, and I never had an awkward moment. It felt really easy. For me, I had really great experiences with women that if there wasn't a romantic connection, I could connect with on a friendship level.
Can you share a little bit about the process of working with a matchmaker?
Working with a matchmaker was a completely different experience than online dating for me. So with online dating, the first point of entry is a photo. What do they look like? And I feel like that creates a false hope and sense of connection with someone than a matchmaker. With a matchmaker, you're completely relying on traits and characteristics of personality and interests and commonalities, and it was just a completely different point of entry for me than online dating that felt more genuine and more real. With every experience I had, it felt like if I wasn't making a romantic connection, I was making a friendship connection. And that was just really different than the pressure of a Tinder or Match.com.
How would you say that I got to know you and learned about your values and your interests and what you wanted in a partner?
Yeah, I think the process of you really getting to know me over 2 hours in a coffee shop and having just a real heart-to-heart about my dating history and what has worked and what hasn't worked and what I want really forced me to be very introspective and to figure it out pretty quickly. We had a lot of different points of connection where we got together and talked about what's worked, what hasn't worked, what do you want in a partner, what don't you want? And I think you asked me a lot of questions that maybe I hadn't really thought about answering myself.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like when I contacted you and said I have somebody wonderful I want to introduce you to, and she's 18 years younger. I think you led with, hey, I have somebody really interesting for you. She works for herself. She works for also Lesbians Who Tech. She's from your hometown. I was like, wow. She likes to swim, she likes travel, she likes the beach.
I remember you telling me, she's getting ready to leave for a month, so we need to get this date going sooner rather than later. And I was like, great, everything sounds perfect, let's do this.
Did you feel like working with me and Matchmaker forced you to step out of your comfort zone?
Definitely. If I had been on an online dating site and I had seen that somebody was 18 years younger, I probably would have thought it was a scam. I definitely stepped out of my comfort zone, but we'd been working together for a while. I really trusted you, and she sounded too good not to meet. And I kind of felt like, I'm in this. What do I have to lose? All of the dates have been great so far, and I was excited to meet her.
Were there any challenges in working with the matchmaker?
I think I battled a few demons in the beginning. I was kind of doing the math on how much am I paying per date? Am I desperate? And then I was like, well, I'm going to reframe this. and look at the fact that the people that I'd been choosing for myself really weren't working. And I think my sister was really instrumental in helping me realize that I had nothing to lose and this was a good decision, and I was at a stage of my life where I really wanted to connect with somebody on a deeper level. I just hadn't found that staying power with anyone that I'd met online.
Would you recommend a matchmaker to your friends or family?
Definitely. I think at the end of the day, how you meet somebody really doesn't matter. And I think whether you meet somebody through matchmaking or online or through a personal connection, the important thing is making that connection. And for me, I just hadn't made them the natural way.
Typical ways,
The
right?
typical ways.
So what are the typical ways?
Yeah, through friends or through online. Like, I'd met some amazing women for sure. Either one of us wasn't interested in a romantic relationship or wasn't looking for a relationship. And so at the end of the day, I think when you're in a relationship, the point of entry in terms of how you met is almost the least important. And for me, I was just ready to try something totally different, and I'm really glad I did.
So when you were researching different matchmakers or different matchmaking firms, what helped you decide which one to go with?
When choosing a matchmaker, there are a few things to consider. The first sort of being, what type of community are they really connected to? What types of people are necessarily in their database, or who are their clients? Where are they finding them? And so I think working with Dr. Frankie, there was just sort of a level of understanding or closeness and feeling like she really understood not only my identity and my background and where I might be coming from and what I might be looking for, but also who she was connected to. And I think there was just a level of familiarity and closeness and understanding that I just don't think I would have found anywhere else, or I really would have sought, because I just felt like it was there.
I have some really close friends that really had seen me sort of struggling in the dating scene. If it weren't for them recommending Dr. Frankie, I probably would not have sought out any other matchmaker. The confidence in knowing that I was working with a lesbian matchmaker, it was the only option for me. I would not have gone out and sought another matchmaker. I've been recruited online by several matchmakers, or so they call themselves. But for me, it was the personalization and the one-on-one relationship. We sat and we talked for 2.5 hours in a coffee shop. You really got to know me, and I felt like it was really easy to say to you, let's be Facebook friends, and anybody that we have mutual friends with, which was like 250, is off the table. So for me, that was really important, because I knew that you knew the community that I was living in. I was able to just have a level of trust and familiarity that I don't think I would have had with a complete stranger.
Did you ever worry that I knew the community so well and we had so many people in common that I wouldn't be able to find you anybody?
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna have to find somebody in New Orleans. I was like, I know every girl in town. And it also kind of taught me that I didn't, which was really great. But that's also really a core reason that I decided to work with a matchmaker, was because I felt like I did know so many amazing women in the community, and I had amazing friends that were really well connected, and I really wanted to try something different and have exposure to women that maybe weren't out in the lesbian scene.
So tell me a little bit about the process of working with me, working with a matchmaker.
The process of connecting with you was really unexpected. I remember I was in Dolores Park. I was looking through my email. I was with friends. We were having a picnic. We were outside. I was really struggling with how to get back into dating and like what that would look like and if I should. And so I just came across this email. I had signed up for a newsletter a long time ago, and it just said there was speed dating going on in my neighborhood. And so I just read it to my friends. I'd been drinking, and I was like, there's speed dating going on around the corner for me. Should I go? And they were like, fuck yeah, you should go. Definitely go. And they were really encouraging and supportive. And I was really uncertain, and it was really unlike me to just kind of go to an event and put myself out there. But I was like, why not? So I went back to Oakland and got ready, and I went to this speed dating event that was really fun. Just a great group of women. I would say I had good conversations with everybody that I spoke to. But what was really intriguing to me was learning at that event that you were a matchmaker, which I hadn't known going into it. I thought it was just speed dating. And so in talking to and learning about it, I was really curious, and I was like, okay, well, speed dating's great, but it would be also fun to understand sort of how I might meet someone in a more intimate setting, or something that might lead to a real partnership. And you had mentioned your site, and then I could go online and fill out a profile. And I just thought, why not? What have I got to lose? And so I went home and I filled one out. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I think when I first did it, I had a few moments as I was filling it out where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't really know where this is going. I was like in a database and like, what does that mean? You know, and who are these clients? Having met you in person and having the conversation and having seen the connections that you made in real time, there was a level of trust there. And so even though I was kind of going through it a little uncertain, I was just remembering back to the FaceTime I had and remembering the women I met in real time. And I was like, okay, they're cool. You know, I think what I liked about it too is putting my trust in somebody else. I think I liked, you know, in the past, me choosing people for myself. I've met some great people on my own, but I think it felt a little comfortable in a way to be like, okay, I'm gonna let somebody else kind of handle this and be able to match me with someone based on the things I'm putting in this profile, like what I value most and my interests and things like that. I mean, they could really, you know, I really put a lot of trust, and I kind of liked the experience of that. And so I sort of liked not being able to know what was gonna happen. And so it was really unexpected when a few weeks later you called me and said, you know, I think I have a match for you. And then that was really exciting, because then I was like, oh, that was quick. That wasn't expected. It was really fun. I think I was intrigued and I wanted to learn more. I definitely wanted to go on a date. Working with Matchmaker was out of my comfort zone. It didn't feel natural at first because I think of what I thought it would be like. I saw pretty quickly how comfortable it really was. I mean, in the same way that I might think, okay, I would want my friends to screen who I'm dating, or I would want my family to have a say. You know, it was just, or I would want them to like the person. It was almost like putting that trust in someone that I knew had my best interest at heart and really cared about me and would only lead me down a path that would be good for me. And so I think it was unexpectedly natural, even though it was uncomfortable at first, to say the least. Yeah.
What was it like for you when you learned that Jill, there was a significant age difference?
Well, what's funny is that
I thought I was going to be 65.
I really thought she was going to be 65. So when you said there was like a significant age difference, I go, significant? What is she, 70? Like, I really thought in my head, like I really blew it up. So then I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I could date anyone that much older than you. So then when you told me, you were like, oh, you know, and I was like, oh, well, fine. And then I think that was my immediate reaction. And then I of course had to go through my own process of like, okay, well, what is that? You know, could I really date someone who was, you know, older than me by 18 years? And I think really quickly I realized that it really is about the connection. And so as long as that was there, which it is, then there's really no other thing to think about other than the connection. So
Other than go for it, right?
yeah,
Why not just
go for it? Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about your first date. How was it? What did you feel, or how did you feel before your first date? Any apprehension? What came up for you?
I felt pretty warmed up since I'd been on a few. I remember it was like a Wednesday, it was summer. We met at Coqueta down at Embarcadero. And yeah, I think you're always nervous before a date, right? You're like, I'm sitting down to dinner with somebody. I think I told you a couple times, I like to sit at the bar, and you're like, I'm gonna make you sit at a table. We ended up sitting at the bar, but only because it was so crowded. Like, she walked in and it just felt really natural, and we had to wait a few minutes for our table. And next thing I know, we were at the table or the bar, and it was like 4 hours later, and we were like, wow, this is really cool. And I remember just having a really great conversation, really connecting around Long Beach. Like, there's nothing better than connecting with somebody about your hometown or things that you experienced growing up. And I just really hadn't had that in a long time. And I'll never forget walking out and going, does she want to see me again? Like, normally I felt there was this kind of anticipation about let's secure the next date, but we just took a walk outside, and I remember it was a really beautiful night and the Bay Bridge lights were on, and we just stopped and looked at it, and we were sober, which was kind of a first for me on a date, which is great. I kind of think you told me, you know, try not to go more than 2 drinks, because then you really get to know somebody. And I feel like on Tinder, you just slam them back. I remember just kind of pausing and looking at the Bay Bridge lights, and it was a really warm night, and walking her to and saying goodnight, and we just hugged, and I was like, well, that was really different and really nice. I remember thinking, I really want to hear from her again, but I'm not going to make the first move because everything goes through you.
It was surprisingly comfortable. I mean, and Jill kind of touched on this already, but we had to wait for a few minutes, and I was so nervous when I first got there. Literally, once we started talking, we didn't stop. It was weird because it wasn't like forced conversation, like, so what do you do? And it was just, it really flowed. When the date ended, I felt sort of unsure of if I could reach out or not, or sort of and that was a little bit different because before, it was sort of like it was on the two people to decide. And so with the matchmaker, I wasn't sure if I was allowed or kind of what it's like, but
you did.
I did anyway, because I was going away for a month and I really wanted to see her again. And I did have a moment of like, is this okay? And then I was like, this is my life and I want to see this person. I was willing to take the risk because she was really worth it. And I really wanted to see her again before I left. I wanted to kiss her again before I left too. So I was like, why not?
Brianna, share a little bit with me about the process of being interviewed by me.
Really natural, really conversational. You asked a lot of, I think, really important questions about me that I wouldn't necessarily tell someone on a first date. So you really, I think, asked really critical things, really key things that allowed me to open up and I think really enter the dating experience with just kind of a different perspective and a different kind of openness. But actually, I think the thing that stands out the most is you asked me to do this process of talking to my friends and family about the top 5 things or qualities or things that they thought of when they thought of me. I took this process to heart, and so I went to both my parents and I asked a few of my friends to list out like 5 or 10 or whatever they were, kind of adjectives describing me. I think that process really actually created transparency in what I was doing. So I kind of told, they're all like, I was like, I'm not trying to get a compliment. I was like, I really just, I was kind of so mortified because I had to tell them, this is why I need this information. I felt, but it was good because then it really felt like there was a whole community of people on my side. So it wasn't just me alone in this matchmaking process. It's like, my parents knew, a few of my friends knew, and so it actually kind of made it a little more real, and they were also supportive. They're like, oh great, you're taking the next step to meet someone more meaningful that, and then they all sort of joked and they're like, well, you haven't been that great at it by yourself, so like all the better that, you're kind of finding somebody through someone else who could support the process.
Have either of you shared with your friends that you worked with a matchmaker?
I shared with my family pretty immediately. My friends, I was a little bit slower to kind of roll that process out. I think there was in my own mind, a bit of a stigma around it. But as I got more confident in the relationship, I was like, who cares? Tell it to the mountain.
I knew that I had a stigma of it the entire time, and I really did want other people to understand how normal it is. And I kind of wanted to normalize it, so I never really had a challenge telling people that's how we met because I really wanted to encourage other people to do it too. It can be something unexpected in the best way. And so I really wanted other people to kind of get that. So I was like, yeah.